Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nobody's Listening, the Star Wars show here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. My name is Matthew. Joining me today, we are in a great positive mood this week because we've had wonderful weeks so far, is Rachel.
I was actually going to say I'm in mourning, so I'm not
Okay.
yes-anding. I'm in mourning because this is the last
Yes, this
one.
is so sad, and it's not only for like some stuff that happens in the episode,
Mhm.
but also just it's going to be well over a year before we get any more Andor, and especially with which I'll mention a little bit later, Tony Gilroy's recent comments about
Mm.
how we did not get 5 seasons,
Mm.
and we're stuck at two, even though I'm still happy we got two, but man. We're going to talk about the final episode here, Rick's Road, episode 12 of Andor. But by the time anyone's listening out there, or our one listener, when they hear this, it is literally Thanksgiving when this is posted. So today is
Oh.
Thanksgiving. So I just want to point out, like, I want to take this opportunity to just, everyone says, hey, we give thanks on Thanksgiving. What are you thankful
Mm.
for and whatnot? Of course, there's many, many things I'm thankful for in my life, but I just want to say I am super thankful for everybody involved in the creation of this show. And if anyone ever listens for who made this show, whether it's the caterer on set or, Kathleen Kennedy, whoever it may be, if anyone ever comes across this show on YouTube, I just want to let them know I am so thankful for them putting in all the hard work and dedication and creating this great Star Wars content. It has brought a lot of joy
Yeah.
to my life over the past couple months, and it sort of renewed my faith in some Star Wars stuff because it was really on a downward slope with Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. And yeah, so thank you everyone, and yes, thank you Kathleen Kennedy as well. She greenlit it. We're going to talk a little bit
Mhm.
about her in a minute, but yeah. Any follow-up comments on that, Rachel? How happy are
Yeah,
you
I
for
mean,
the show?
I'm of course super thankful for this because like you, I mean, I wasn't quite as like out on Star Wars, but I had kind of come to this place where I was like, I will accept mediocrity to just kind of exist in this world and, but it didn't have the same kind of impact, but it was fine. And this was a reminder and a reinvigoration of my
Yeah.
fandom in a way that I have not had in a very long time, and so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for it gave us the opportunity to do the show and to hang out and really kind of celebrate the fandom and really process our feelings. I love a deep dive, and so getting to do this has been very, very fun for me. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for you, Rachel, for joining
Oh,
me on this show. I'm not thankful to Steve, who refuses to watch this, and
I know.
Ronan, but of
Jesus.
course, I'm thankful for
So
you.
I don't normally think that I'm better than people. I think that's an ugly attitude to have, but I do think that you and I are better than anybody who isn't watching
Yeah.
this.
Oh, that's 100% true. I mean, if there's, Steve and Ronan are really low compared to us.
Oh,
We are
yes, very
superior
low.
humans in almost every way, shape, or form.
Mhm, mhm. It's true. They're the Morlocks to our whatever, the Aldenai or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
So we are going to talk about this final episode here, but there was an interesting piece of news slash rumor, and I'll categorize this in
Yeah.
the rumor section. This is not confirmed, but Bob Iger. This is confirmed. Bob Iger's back at
Yes.
Disney. They fired Bob
Yeah.
Chapek. Thank God, he was awful.
Bye-bye.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Bobby.
Seriously.
So he was fired by the board of directors in this very sort of like, hey, we're going to talk to Bob
Gross.
Iger on Friday, and then, hey, you're going to Elton John on Sunday. Guess what? You're fired. Sort of thing. So, which almost immediately led to news reports that Kathleen Kennedy is about to be fired. Now, this has been said to be imminently happening by every mouth breathing Star Wars hater for the past 5 years, and it always
Yeah.
turns out to be wrong. So, I don't know how much stock to take in these quote unquote reports that this is going to happen, but but let's just assume for a minute that the reports are accurate or ultimately turn out to be accurate, and she does sort of graciously get shoved out the door in the next 3 or 4 months. what are your feelings on sort of Kathleen Kennedy, the Kathleen Kennedy era of Lucasfilm? Do you think that overall was a success? Do you feel like it would be unjustified? Because she has had a lot of misfires, a lot of missteps that happened with the
Mhm.
company. You can't just sugarcoat that kind of stuff. We recognize that. But do you think that this would be something that's sort of justified and deserved? Do you think Lucasfilm needs new leadership at this point, or do you think, hey, she's doing a great job right now, let keep her going?
I mean, I think it's obviously a mixed bag. You know, she has made some missteps, but then she's also been behind something like Andor and Mandalorian, two of the best things that have come out. So
Rogue
I
One.
think Rogue One, I mean, I think we're very hard on her for her failures and not as celebratory of her as her success. And I think it's important to remember that, Andor was also greenlit during Bob Iger's, you know, his
Mm-hmm.
time at Disney.
Yep.
So if this is, I mean, if the reason that they're talking about removing her is the lack of audience for this show, I mean, he would be just as complicit in that because he was involved in the decision as well, or at least in the green lighting of it. So I don't know. I think I feel like it's a rumor. I root for Kathleen Kennedy. I would love to see her continue to succeed. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there's so much misogyny wrapped up in all of the dialogue around Kathleen Kennedy. It's hard to be objective, because it's hard to separate those things from really analyzing her career because it's so coded in that in the way that it's talked about.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Kathleen Kennedy. I
Yeah,
make no bones about it. People who like you see the stuff online all the time. Star Wars fans just hating and hating on Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, she ruined Star Wars. She ruined Star Wars. She didn't ruin Star Wars. It was the writers who were writing these things. People blame. You can blame Ryan Johnson just as much. You can blame Kathleen Kennedy for all that stuff.
my friend
Ha-
Ryan Johnson, how dare you?
Yes, but it's one of those things where it's like she is without a doubt one of the greatest producers ever. And I saw a bunch of stuff online recently. I was reading, it's like, oh well, she was only successful because she was on Steven Spielberg's coattails, and
Oh
she was
Jesus.
only
Oh
successful because
Jesus.
George Lucas and blah blah. I'm like, that is bullshit. Go look at any interview with Steven Spielberg when he's talking about Kathleen Kennedy, and it's like she is one of the greatest producers in Hollywood history. Like, he reveres her. George Lucas handpicked her to be in charge of Lucasfilm. It's not like she was just like sitting in the background, like collecting accolades, that she didn't quote unquote deserve. She's done all kinds of stuff. But when you have such a huge career and you're running companies and you're producing, yeah, you're gonna have some misses. Okay, Steven
Mhm.
Spielberg has misses. Who's seen the BFG?
Yeah.
Nobody, right?
I
you know
was literally just gonna say the same thing. Like, are we really acting like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas haven't had some fails?
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing about being a leader is like coming back from your failures, right? So what did Kathleen Kennedy do after the admitted failure of Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker? Well, she gave us Mandalorian, right? I can't blame her for greenlighting a Boba Fett and an Obi-Wan show. Everybody wanted those. Every Star Wars
Right?
fan wanted them.
They
It's not
were obvious gimmies. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Andor was not an obvious gimme, right? Andor's like, look at
No.
our friend Stephen Ronan. I'm not interested in that. Not going to watch it. Lots of Star Wars fans aren't watching it, but still, if you're going to give her the blame for certain things, you got to give her credit for certain things as well. You can't say, well,
Yes.
she gets no
Yes.
credit for Mandalorian. That's all John Favreau. No, 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 no. John Favreau had to go to her and pitch this project to her, and she had to agree to it and greenlight it. It is her decision, not John
Mhm.
Favreau's. So I don't know. I'm kind of like
I
you. I
agree.
I don't think that she needs to be pushed out or anything like that. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff coming out for Star Wars next year. We got Bad Batch season 2,
Mhm.
Mandalorian season 3. You got
Mhm.
Ahsoka. You got that
Mhm.
John Watts skeleton crew thing coming out. You have the
Mhm.
Acolyte. You have all these cool things happening next year, and I just don't think she deserves to be booted. And that might be an unpopular opinion with Star Wars fans who might be coming across this show for the first time, but Look, yeah, she's had some missteps, but everybody in life has missteps. It's how you come back from them, and I feel like she's come back from them quite well.
Did you see though that Ryan Johnson talked about his trilogy of Star Wars films?
No, I don't
Uh,
care.
He's okay. So you're not interested to know that he has confirmed that he still is working on a trio of films?
That's fine. He can work on a trio of films all he wants. I think that now here's the thing, like outside of The Last Jedi, I love Ryan Johnson's movies. Like every
Mhm.
single one of them, all the way back to Brick. I remember
Yeah.
seeing Brick and I'm like, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
I just love all of his stuff. Looper, like everything. You can put anything Ryan Johnson in front of me. I'm like, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna watch it. Knives Out. I haven't seen Glass Onion yet. I don't know if that's out on
It's
Netflix yet. Is
great.
it? Okay, good, good, good. He just made a mistake, right? He made some mistakes with how he took the certain characters in Star Wars. Hey, he made a mistake.
I wonder though, so I recently interviewed Rachel Talalay, who directed Freddy's Dead, which I is a controversial select entry in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And it was interesting because she is held so responsible for the tonal shift because she's the director, but it was actually like something that came down from above about like this is how you have to change things. This needs to be a date movie. The last movie was too violent. We want PG-13 violence. So
Hmm,
like she was hemmed in by the powers that be to create the film that she did. Like she said she would make a totally different film if she was given it, like if she could redo it, it'd be a very
yeah.
different film. Like there are things she likes about it, there are things she would change about it. And I wonder how much heat Ryan Johnson is taking potentially for decisions that came from higher up.
Well, I think all that Ryan Johnson would really need to do, honestly, like you were saying, Rachel Talele, she admits, yeah, some of the stuff is I screwed up on some of this. I'd do it differently if I could do this. Ryan Johnson, to my knowledge, has never acknowledged anything like that. He's doubled and tripled down on the decision, and it's like, and
Yeah,
everybody goes to that
yeah,
video
maybe.
of Mark Hamill basically Mark Hamill knew what was going to happen before this movie came out. On the press junkets, he was sitting. He's like, "This ain't my Luke Skywalker.
Oh,
this is not
jeez.
who I felt Luke Skywalker should be." And I think it's not to digress and go off tangent here on the Last Jedi thing, but you look at
My
the
fault.
last no, you look at the last episode of Mando season 2 when Luke shows up and you compare that in a reaction that Star Wars fans had to that moment and seeing
Hmm.
the Luke Skywalker that they've always imagined in their head, and then you look at the Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi, and I would just ask Ryan Johnson if I could, if I was alone with Ryan Johnson, I was like, when you saw Mando finale of season 2, what was your reaction to that? And do you think that you maybe should have done something a little bit different? Do you think that that would have gone a little bit differently if, hey, I don't know, just off the top of my head here, what if Luke Skywalker went to that Octu and he was trapped there because Palpatine or some Sith some time in the past had set up something and he started slowly becoming corrupted by the dark side, which is why he was stuck there. So it wasn't he was just I don't care that my friends and family are dying. I don't want anything to do, and I'm butthurt about something that happened 20 years ago, blah, blah. But it was because he went there with the right intentions, but the dark side somehow entrapped him and started corrupting him. And then Ray has to come, and Ray helps him break free of that. You see, this is off the top of my head, and I feel like it's better than what Ryan Johnson wrote. So, eh, I don't know. I don't know. Where were we? What are we talking about?
Kathleen Kennedy,
Oh yeah,
Bob
yeah.
Iger.
I'm thumbs up on Kathleen Kennedy. If she stays, I am not going to cry about it. So
Yes,
I'm totally
agree.
fine with Kathleen Kennedy staying. And if she leaves, if she heads out the door, I hope that they bring in somebody who loves Star Wars like they're not going to let Dave Filoni run a studio, but somebody like a Dave Filoni who just has such a passion for it and kind of knows
Mhm.
the ins and outs of what the fans like.
But
Uh,
where will they find a passionate person about Star Wars?
I don't know. I mean, I'm
Maybe
available.
on this show?
We could co-rule like the
Yeah,
Rachel,
I
like you and
like
I, the rule of two. We can look at with the rule of two.
Yeah.
Then you
Always
can,
2 there are.
yeah, you
Let's
could.
do it.
Then I can stab you in the back and usurp the power and take over Lucasfilm at some point in the future because that's how it
Great.
works, right? That's how
Great.
it works. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, let's get out of the news. Let's start talking about. Actually, I'm trying to put it off as long as I can because I don't want to finish talking about the
I
show.
know.
Let's talk about Rick's Road. Set us up, Rachel.
Okay, so this one, as I told you in on the Discord before this, was a little bit challenging to write out sort of the summary of it. So, because normally our cast is kind of all across the universe and easily organized, but not today. So we're just gonna start with Coruscant because it's just our girl Mon hanging out by herself. She was not invited to the Ferrex party, apparently. Um, okay. So when we pick up with her, she is in a limo waiting for her husband to get in, and she does something very smart and interesting, which
Hmm.
is making sure that her driver, the spy, Cloris, can overhear um hints at where the money has gone. She blames her husband, Perrin, who is a very easy mark for this, for gambling again. And of course, he is outraged because he is falsely accused, although probably not, let's be honest. Um,
I actually thought that this was a really interesting thing because
mhm.
I'm sitting here thinking like, because he's really like, I'm not gambling again. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Who's telling you this shit? I'm not doing anything like that. And I actually felt just based on the performance of the actor, because I don't know the name of the actor who plays him, but he's really great at being just this smarmy,
Oh,
jackassy sort
yes.
of awful character. But I felt via the performance that he was being honest in this moment here, and I'm just like, wow, this is
Oh,
like ice cold at Mon Mothma. I think she's gonna get this guy killed. I think.
I mean, she could very well. And the thing is you think like because he's been so unlikable, you're like, oh, cool, he's good cannon fodder, whatever. But you're left with the impression that maybe she solved her problem. And she's like, we thought she has one A or B that she can do, and she managed to figure out C, which is always great writing, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what George R. R. Martin is known for, is he presents you with A and B, and then out of nowhere here comes C, and you're like, oh my god, I never thought of that's even better. And so you think, oh, she's solved this problem. But no, 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 no. Despite Cloris believing her and taking it back to Blevin, her problem is not so solved.
Yeah.
So we were wrong. She goes ahead and sells off her daughter to the Dickensian space thug, and
Okay, well. I don't know if she actually. Well, here's the thing. I think that we're going to see in season two that Mon Mothma has a plan here to get out of this
she
somehow
may,
because
yeah.
when that gangster guy showed up, he specifically says he's like, "Hey, nothing guaranteed, right? Like, I'm not going to marry. It's not guaranteed. My." He's like, "I just want an introduction. I want to introduce my son to your daughter." And I wonder if that specific line in that previous episode where it's not like guaranteed, oh hey, yeah, I want you to marry off your daughter to my son. That's gonna have to be a condition of this 400,000 credits I'm giving you. They left themselves a little bit of an out right
Yeah.
there. And I think what might end up happening is that conversation in the car, um that's all going to be related to this gangster, right? She might be taking down her husband
Mm.
and the gangster simultaneously and getting her daughter
Ooh.
out of this this madness that her daughter seems to be have gotten herself into.
I would like to believe that's true because I don't want to see her go down this path, but I will say she's very convincing in looking genuinely
Yes.
stressed by what she's doing. Um she's such an expressive actor,
Oh, she's
and
so good.
when she's
So good.
standing there with the child between them and parents just like whatever, she looks genuinely distressed at what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yes. And Genevieve O'Reilly, I had no idea because I don't know if I've really seen any other movies that she's starred in. I've only ever known her as Mon Mothma in Star
Mhm.
Wars stuff, and like all of the acting in this show makes me want to go seek out films with these actors because I'm like, oh well, I need to go find some more Genevieve O'Reilly movies. If she's this
Mhm.
good, like what the hell is she doing in other stuff? Definitely award winning or nomination at least stuff here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be super bummed if this gets totally snubbed at the awards because this episode again, just like the performances across the board are so stellar.
Yeah.
Um, One other thing happens here, which is we see Blevin getting the report back from Cloris about parents' alleged um gambling, and he comments, that she has irregularities in their finances, which proves like that ticking clock was legit. They actually had already noticed that there were inconsistencies in their finances, uh but they are interrupted because they're missing out on the apparent slaughter of Anto Krieger and his men, which is met by the Empire with a nice golf clap. Except for Dedra, who is pissed because she was not included in the
Yes.
mission, and they didn't leave anybody alive for her to talk to.
Yeah. Also, just getting back to connection to Ryan Johnson in that car, Mon Mothma tells him, "Go gamble on Canto Bight."
You're right. That was one of the little Easter eggs in this is Canto Bite God, which is not my favorite
It's
part of
awful.
Star Wars canon.
It's awful. Should
That
ask
was
him
the
about
point
that.
when I was watching the movie that I was like, "Oh no. Oh no,
Yeah.
this isn't good. Oh no." Was CGI Canto Bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was under the impression that Mon basically had taken this option, and I thought it was an interesting kind of thing because we've been trying to figure out like what everybody's Rubicon is, like what is the thing that pushes them into the rebellion. This entire season has been about seeing that with Andor, and then we get backstory for a handful of the characters. So to see that her Rubicon is kind of this moment where she makes a choice to marry off her daughter and return to the funds, not only to cover up her financial issues, but potentially to continue funding the rebellion, I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I still think that she's got a plan. No, I think she's still scared as hell because she's scared as hell in every episode. All the
Mhm.
way leading up to this, even before this gangster came into her life, she's looking like she's about ready to break down in every
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
So, what I think is going to happen is I think she's sort of quote unquote going through this for appearance purposes, right? And then I think she's going to have a plan. Either that or someone's going to help her, like Vel, or somebody's going to help her. And then I think she'll end up taking that because we still don't know about her husband. Her husband hangs out with like the high society of the Imperials, but is he actually a bad guy? That's the thing. He's kind of a douche,
Yeah.
but is he just a jerk? Like is he just a bad husband, or is he actually with in bed with the Imperials and spying on her and reporting back? We don't know. We've
Right.
never really seen it. He just acts like he's an asshole. You get some side eyes when she's hanging out with Tay, but maybe that's just a jealous husband who's like
Mhm.
looking at her like, are you cheating on me, sort of thing. So I don't know. And the way this writing of the show goes in season 2, it could turn out he's actually a good guy the whole
Right.
time. And maybe that's the thing that gets her. Maybe it turns out he's a good guy, but she's burned him because she thought he was bad. And then boom, then she has to deal with the fact that she got her husband killed or something. I don't know. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
I do love she has all this layers and layers and layers of privilege with her money and her power, and the way that as the pinchers close and it gets closer and closer and is now impacting her family. It's just interesting, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Daughter's
Okay.
still gonna die though.
Yeah, probably. Although who
Gonna
knows?
have to.
Maybe she'll get whisked away to Thug Island and be fine. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ferrex, here's where things get complicated. So bear with me. Literally everyone else is here on Ferrex. I would not have been surprised if Kino just popped up and was like, "Hey, I'm here," because everybody else does.
And
So
they're
I just,
all on one street. Like
yeah.
three block, three
My
blocks of
God.
one street.
Can I tell you, like, every time I saw a brick, I got emotional, and, like, the entire episode, after disclosing that funereal rite, like, I realized every framing shot is
Yes.
surrounded by these circular bricks. He's looking through bricks, 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 bricks
Yeah, and you
everywhere.
don't notice it until they pointed it out. that
And
that
now
was the
it's
funeral thing, and now I see it everywhere. I kept doing the same
yeah,
thing. I'm like, "Oh my god, there's like 20 bricks right next to him in the frame." And it's like,
yes!
"Ah, yeah, so
Yeah,
good."
I mean, that tower with its bricks, all of that kind of thing,
Yeah.
like, that I didn't even it was one of those moments, and I think it's emblematic of, like, some of the themes of the show where, like, it is and like, wake up that you're supposed to have at the end of the people of the town are supposed to have of at this moment of, like, it's all around you, it's present, you don't see it, and then once you see it, you can't unsee it, it's everywhere. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was
because it's almost like in a way the viewer is the empire, right? They
yeah.
show the empire show up on Ferrex. They don't give a fuck about any of these brick buildings. They didn't
Yeah.
even know what the funeral custom was, and then when they were told, they didn't even give a shit. So,
Mm-mm.
but it's kind of like the empire shows up and they don't notice anything with the culture that they walk into, and we as viewers are just watching the show and we are not noticing all of the details. And then when
Mhm.
they tell us the detail, you're like, oh my god. And then you go back and you're like, holy shit, now
Yeah.
this means so much more. So yeah, it's like almost like the viewer is awakening to a rebellion against the empire.
Oh,
It's
I
cool.
feel very awoken. I will tell you
Very cool.
that.
Love it.
All right. So the first to arrive is your girl Dedra, who is accompanied by her very own personal death troopers.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, what an entrance!
Yes.
The ship, the death troopers, the whole thing. The girl knows how to make
She
an
just
entrance.
looks like a boss too. She got that look on her face like I'm about to fuck some shit up here.
Yeah,
Don't
she
fuck
is
with me.
becoming increasingly more snarly every
Yeah.
episode.
She's becoming now we'll get into what
Here we
happens
go.
with her here. We'll get into what happens and where that might go with season 2. But I would argue that she's becoming one of the most memorable Star Wars villains
Oh,
just based on the show. Just
oh yes.
like she's jumping up the list of great Star Wars villains.
Yeah, at some point we should do like one of those rankings of the Star Wars villains.
Oh, for sure.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Sold. Done.
All right. Amazing. So, yes, she arrives and she would like everyone to know she cannot stress this enough. She wants Andor alive.
Yes.
Nobody wants people to live more in the show than Dedra.
Yeah, stop killing people. I want to torture them and get the information I need.
Oh my god. She even stops in and sees Bix and like watches her all creepily
Mhm.
looking all traumatized in the room.
Oh, yeah,
Ah,
when the camera just turns over to her, I'm
yes.
like, "This is so disturbing on so many levels." It's like she's getting joy out of poor Bix.
Yes, she's such a sadist. It's wild. It's wild. Okay. So Vel makes it to the planet. She gets a very cold very cold welcome from her special lady friend Cinta. I'm not sure where this is going. I feel like they're setting us up for something, but it never really fully pays off. But just putting a pen in it for later.
'Kay.
Also heading to the planet, of course, is Cyril and his good buddy Mosk, who do a quick little hat swap before landing, which again I love these character beats. Even in the
No.
finale, we stop to have this character beat.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about this show is, like, in the hands of somebody else, that shot never would have been in it
No.
because people would be like, "Well, that's boring. That doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't move the story forward anyway." But that's not what the show's about. The show is about the character moments,
Mhm.
learning about these characters. So, you know, people every day have weird little moments like this and interactions with other
Yeah.
people, and that just adds so much more to it. So when you ultimately see what happens, you're like, oh god, it just enriches the characters so much.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but I feel endeared to Mosk. There's like when he just gives him like the nice hat, he's like, have it. Just
Yeah.
have it. And then when he makes it out at the end, he's just laying on the steps. I'm like, you made it, buddy.
Yeah.
And this show, I mean, even these little side nothing characters actually resonate. And that's true also of like all the on Ferrix. I had to look up all of their names. I had no idea what their names were. But when their fates would arrive, it felt heavy. I felt it. I felt
Yeah.
it.
This reminds me, and I usually use this example quite a bit when we're talking about movies and films, and people were talking about, like, well, what's an example of a great ensemble piece? And I'm like, a great
Mm.
ensemble piece is not just like, okay, the main four actors, the big name actors are all memorable. It's like,
Mhm.
it's everything. It's the people who have like two lines. and one line. Like, how memorable can you make them? And I always use, James Cameron's Aliens as a perfect example.
Yes. Yeah.
We know every freaking space marine that was there. I know
Yep.
Frost,
I was
like
gonna
all
say
those people.
Frost is the first to go.
Yeah, and it's like, and that they have like maybe one line, two lines, but they've been endeared with so much
Mhm.
memorable stuff and character moments that just
Yep.
sticks in your mind. And this show
Uh-huh.
does that really, really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So despite being the most wanted man in the universe, Andor makes it back to Ferrix, as and goes and meets up with his friends Pegla and Brasso, but not before visiting his father's funerary brick and recalling a memory of them refurbishing filters, which is a very it's like a surprisingly powerful scene. We haven't seen a flashback of him in a little bit.
I like this scene a lot. I have a comment about this scene, but it
Okay.
relates to something that happens later that we haven't got to yet. So we'll circle back
Okay,
around to
we'll
that.
circle back. I mean, is it about the Nimic stuff or
No, no, no,
oh,
no, no. It's about
oh,
B2.
because I actually okay, we'll get there on that. For me, the reason this resonated for me is he's talking about like when he is refurbishing these filters, how people overlook, right? They don't look
Mhm.
down, they don't look through the rust, but not us. We see through the rust. Um and the thing that spoke to me was this idea of like people not looking down, and it echoes something that Nimic said about surprise never being or surprise from above is never as shocking as one from below. And because these are sort of like the two voices in his head in this episode, I thought that was kind of like an interesting kind of juxtaposition, those kinds of things. Like that this is a repeated motif that he has heard from people in his life. And
Okay,
in
I
this
have
moment he looks back at this. Yeah.
okay. I got something completely different out of it. So, but we'll get there.
Oh.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And
Well,
yours might
okay.
very well be the right way to look at it, but
I mean,
I got
two
something
things
that's
can be
slightly.
true.
That's true. Three things can be true.
That's true. So complicating all of this because it's not complicated enough is that the locals are doing way too much. Okay, Wilmon is making a bomb in honor of
This
his dead
the
father.
show opens with him making a bomb.
It sure does. I'm like, oh, steaks first
Yeah.
thing right out the gate.
Yep. Yep. I see. I thought I was like, are they going to do a suicide bomb sort of thing here? Like, what is going on? That was the first thing I thought of.
I mean, I wonder if it was intended to be a suicide bomb, but um Marva's words moved him. 'Cause
Oh,
I
that's
also
true.
thought it was a suicide bomb.
Oh, see, I hadn't thought about that. You could be right.
Also, we meet Nurchi, who sucks. Nurchi the narc overhears that Andor knows about his mother.
He was in
Um,
the first episode. Remember, he was the
was
guy that was trying.
he?
He was trying to sell Andor, like, guys. I don't remember if Andor was in debt to him or he was trying to sell him something, and
Oh,
Andor told him no, like, I'm not going to do it. And that's the thing about this show. I
interesting.
can't wait now that he's all
Yes,
done to binge it back to back,
agree.
so I can synthesize all of this stuff because there's so many things I've forgotten. I'm like, who was that person again? Because that happened
Mhm.
like 8 weeks ago or something. So yeah, yeah. But he was in episode one.
Yep. Okay. That yeah, I completely forgot about Nurchi, but I will not forget about him now because Nurchi sucks. Um, so he of course starts eavesdropping because he's planning on ratting him out to the Empire. So okay, Bix, like I said, still in the brig, looking rough. Andor learns about this and starts concocting a plan to get her out, but not before Brasso, who's the big dude, tells him Marva's incredible message. And
Hmm.
like I'm just gonna say it right now, I like cried through this whole episode. I
Yeah,
was such a baby. I was moved by so much, but like this part especially, boo-hooing. Boo-hooing.
yeah, and it's just again the acting. It's so good. They have like those close-ups on Andor's
Mhm.
face and on Brasso's face as he's saying, and he's just repeating. It's like because we just talked in I don't know if it was the last episode or the episode before that. Look, Andor, he's got to come back because the last time he saw his mom, she was telling him, "Look, this ain't for you. go have
Right.
fun, go spend your money, whatever. And he wanted to come back and tell her like, no, you will be proud of me. And then Brasso's like, actually, she was proud of you, and literally says like, hey, as soon as you get your shit together, you are going to be like the ultimate for it. You're going to do like the most amazing thing ever. And I, as your mom, I know it's going to happen. I love you, sort of
Oh
thing.
my god, I
It's like,
know.
oh god, it's so good. It's just so good. And again, like in most movies, traditionally written sort of films and even television shows, Andor would have made it back right before she
Mhm.
died, and you would have got her just saying this to him, and as he's holding her, she passes away or something. I
Yeah.
love this type of storytelling because it's like
Yeah.
this happens in real life. Parents die and you don't get to hear from them. There are things that you want to say. Or, my
Yeah.
grandmother died, last year, and it's like there were things I just didn't get to say, and I that happens in real life, and
Yeah.
your friends are there for you. It's like that. He had to memorize all that shit. He knew it was important.
Yeah.
If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, "Oh my god!" I'd be freaking writing it down and trying to memorize.
Right.
Like, what?
Wait, let me get
Yeah,
let me
hold
get
on,
my
Marva.
iPhone out.
Hold on, Marva. I was like, Marva, can't you just record a hologram here and I'll play it for him?
Right? But it's interesting, I don't know if you took this away that maybe she actually knew that he had been involved with the Eldani heist?
Yeah, I
Because
don't know. I don't
Because she
know.
says, "Tell him none of this is his fault. It was already burning. He's just the first spark of the fire. Tell him he knows everything he needs to know and feels everything he needs to feel. And when the day comes that he pulls those two things together, he will be an unstoppable force for good." Which to
Yeah.
me sounds like she knew that he did something
Was
because
has
that he
any
would
could
feel at
any
fault about.
would there have been anyone on Ferrex that could have told her?
No.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But,
I
like,
don't
I
know, like,
wonder
if
if the
he's the spark.
timing and the having of the money, like, she was able to put it together.
Maybe, maybe. I don't know. It's not clear. It's ambiguous.
It is ambiguous. Alright. Well, damn it, I was hoping you'd have the answer for me. Now I'm
I
just gonna
don't.
have to live with the question
Yeah,
mark.
I don't know.
So, at this point, this is where, Andor also gives Nimic's manifesto a listen, which, of course, is amazing.
I saw a tweet and someone's like, Disney needs to get this manifesto out to people on audio form like
Yes.
immediately. Just have
Yes.
Tony Gilroy write the whole manifesto and have that actor read it and just send it out.
Oh my god.
Send it out to the
Yes.
world. It's so good. It's
Like,
so
"Put
good.
that in the season 2 press kit, please. I would like
Yeah.
to have it."
Like there is money to be made, Disney, if you just
Yes.
do something, and you can make some money off this and we can get that manifesto out there.
I was sure that this was gonna end with climb somehow, but instead, it ended with something I think is also kind of interesting and, like, has larger Star Wars, resonance, which is he says, "Remember this, try." Like, basically the importance of trying. And,
Yep.
one of the most famous sort of Star Wars sayings is there is no try, so it's an interesting kind of counter
Yeah.
message to that. Like, if you're not a chosen, space wizard, like, trying actually does matter. There's value in try. All you can do is try. Pick up whatever you can and fight back. Are the is the messages like that Nimic is espousing that are, I think, incredibly powerful and can be underappreciated when, like I said, you have space wizards on your side.
Yeah, that's a
So,
great observation because I hadn't even considered that. But now you point out, I was like, wow, that is really. So yeah, yeah, that's a great observation. Love it.
I mean, I just listen to everything Nimic says. Like, if I, the
It's
problem is
good.
if that manifesto comes out, I'm gonna be like, I have a new religion.
Yes,
I am
yes.
a Nimicon
Nimicon.
now. Alright, it turns out even Luthen has been invited to the Ferrex party. He meets up with Vel, and they cook up a plan to let the Empire do the work for them, catch Andor, and then they will assassinate him before he can open his big old mouth.
I feel. Do you get the sense that Vel is like, I don't really. My heart is not 100% into all of this anymore. I feel like just based on the performance or how it was acted, when Luthen's like, we're gonna kill Cassian, whatever, she just has this look on her face like, we shouldn't be killing this guy. I mean,
Mhm.
she knows he shouldn't die. I mean, he didn't steal the money. He had the opportunity to take the money, but he saved her life. He's like, look,
Yeah.
God, this dude's gonna kill you. I just want my portion, and I'm out of here. You can take the rest for your stuff. So it's like she knows he's not a bad guy, and yet she's on the side of a guy who is actively trying to kill him.
Mhm.
Cinta just does not seem to really be interested that much in the relationship anymore. It's clearly
No.
second fiddle, and she's seeing all the shit that's going on with Mon, what could be happening to Mon and her niece, and
Yeah.
so it's like I get the sense that Vel's kind of like, I'm not into this as much as I was before.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right. She's a little bit of a tough read, which is what makes her an interesting character. But yeah, there seems to be a lack of enthusiasm here, which is understandable. It'll be interesting to see how that carries over into the next season, since presumably they didn't bury their gays and Vel made it out, much
Yeah,
to my shock and relief.
yeah.
I mean, Cinta can kiss my butt, but I love Vel, so okay, so second act, the funeral begins. All right. So, like I said, Luthen and Vel are plotting, but that gets interrupted because Marva's funeral starts early, as we know by the hitting of the anvil. Which, by the way, something happens in that tower that I cannot wait to talk about.
Yes. So good.
And so they agreed to regroup at the hotel because everybody's not already enough in the same place. We've all got to go to the same building as well. Jesus, this show. Okay, so the procession begins. Nurchi rats out Andor like the narc that he is. They try to catch him, but fortunately, Andor has not only spotted the incoming ISB, but also has spotted Luthen in the
Yeah.
crowd. And
Hanging out on some steps right by our boy Cyril, who doesn't
yep.
even notice him there.
Oh my god. Cyril. Oh my god, Cyril. So, yes, we'll get to Cyril in a second here. So, he decides that he is going to take off and go and rescue Bix at the hotel, which he manages to get in and finds himself a very, very traumatized Bix, who initially does not want to leave with him.
And it's great because that's another thing I love about this show so much is in a typical show, he'd show up and she'd be like, Cassian, you're here. And they'd immediately go out like a blaze of glory, gunfire all over this place. He gets there and she's fucked up.
Yeah,
She's like, no, no, no.
they'll be
I can't.
mad.
They'll be real mad if I leave, right? Because she is emotionally destroyed at this
Yes.
point.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how this trauma will play out in the next season. Most shows I think would probably wipe the slate clean, but I suspect that's not going to be the case here. Um and I think that there's some value in telling that side of it. Like the
Hmm.
impact, like what this kind of trauma when these sorts of war crimes are happening, like what impact that can have on the psyche and potentially changing her. We'll see who she is on the other side of
Yeah.
healing from this.
Is she gonna be the same Bix, or is she gonna be?
Uh,
Is she gonna start? Maybe she'll be more Saw Gerrera type, sort
I
of.
mean, I would not be surprised. I think that this is having children screaming to death in your head repeatedly is radicalizing
Yeah.
potentially. So we'll see. We'll see. She may have got fast tracked. Andor took a full season to radicalize. I think she might have done it in an episode, but
Maybe
we'll
that's
see.
why the Empire doesn't use that tactic anymore. Like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do
Man,
this.
she just cuts such a swath through the empire. Okay, spin-off Tony Gilroy. Give me the Bix kills Nazi spin-off, please. Okay, so the procession moves through town, and our Cyril catches sight of one Dedra Marrow and has like a space gasm in his pants when he
Insta
sees her.
boner. Yeah.
And in his mind, you can see he's
Oing,
just
oing,
like,
oing, oing, oing.
it's fate. It's fate. He's like, she's here. He is in a whole different
Simplord.
genre of film. He thinks he is in a rom com, a fascist rom com.
This guy, man, I was talking to Alyssa. I was like, "Oh, your favorite character is Cyril, isn't it?" She's like, "No, what are you talking about? He's got a weasel face." I'm like, "Yeah, this guy. I mean, the actor who plays him is so good. Don't get me
Oh,
wrong. He's
yes.
so good. He's
Oh,
so
yes.
so great in it. But man, and oh god, it's just I want to just punch that guy when I see him. I just oh
Yes.
god,
Same.
space stalker.
I mean, and the thing is, we'll get to it, but there's some troubling stuff here. Okay. All right. So the procession makes it to the town square, and up comes B2 Emo, like the little perfect hero that he
Oh,
is.
real quick, before you get
Yes.
to this, I
Yes.
just
Here we
want to
go.
say this space procession thing, like
Yes.
the funeral is so awesome.
It is
Just
amazing.
the way that they shoot this, it's like they're. I cannot imagine that. I'd like to see some actual just photos, like a bird's eye view of how big this set that they built actually was,
Mm,
because it's so small and confined. And I always look at this stuff as like a from a filmmaker perspective, right?
yeah.
And I've shot on like stuff very small areas, and it's super difficult to be able to set up shots that really show different locations where all these characters are in completely different locales without it
Right.
becoming confusing and looking exactly the same. And it was just amazing to me how they were able to film all this stuff with all of these extras. There were so many extras. We have a million different players, all like, like I said, the chess pieces
Hmm.
are moved into place, and just showing where everybody's at and being able to show in relation, like here's Andor, he's across the street in the top of this building, and then
Hmm.
Dedra's over here, and Luthen's over there. It was really well, and just the tension of what is going to
Yeah.
happen. I love that the Empire was like, "What the fuck's happening?" Because they were expecting 2 hours down the road.
Yeah.
2 hours. We'll have this ready, and they just start, and it gets back to Nemec's thing.
Yes.
Power panics, and they start
Yes.
freaking out. They're like throwing people out there. We need to show a force because they're panicking for a
Mhm.
funeral. They're
Yep.
just walking down the street playing space flutes. That's all they're doing, and they are freaking out.
Yes. Yes, you're so right. It's that the core of the Howard is at the core of fascism. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. So, so good. And also just again, we talked about this. I think the last time we really talked about this was in the eye, but the costuming is so
Yeah.
incredible in this. Like when we see the daughters of Ferrex and they all have these robes with these special pins on them, like it really, without having to explain anything, just really kind of immerses you in the culture and the world building that is being done through the costuming.
Yeah, everything about the show is beautiful.
Yes.
Beautifully shot, the costumes, the location, even the CG when they do shows, it's beautiful. It's just,
Hmm.
oh, it's so good.
Yeah, yeah. So the procession makes it to the town square. Like I said, B2 Emo comes out and projects a giant Marva. I was so excited.
As soon as I saw that happen, because I was not expecting that, honestly.
No,
I was like, what's gonna happen here? And then I was like, Rachel's gonna freak out.
I did. I did. I immediately started crying again. I was so excited to see Fiona Shaw again. I was so excited that she got, like, we've had a series of amazing speeches and they saved one for her. She got the last
Mhm.
one, and that she got to give the rallying cry. It was such a great send off because I understood thematically when you were explaining why you thought that it happened off screen, and I think you're right. You were right, but I needed the closure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
this
getting that was, well, yeah, was great.
yeah, and that's so great. That's the genius of this show, because I was like, well, thematically it had to happen, but then they were able to give me show me something I wasn't expecting, where it's
Right?
like, okay, thematically it still worked, and then this just makes it work even better, because like, Cassian gets to see it. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's great. It's great.
It is really great. And then she gives this, barn burner. We get one more barn burner. And I was thinking it was really interesting because Luthen is in the crowd. And I
Yeah.
think everyone here is moved, including him. And in some ways, her speech is in conversation with his. Like she talks about, he talks about like I'm going to die doing this and I'm going to never see the dawn of the day that I have been fighting for. All of those kinds of things. She uses similar kind of metaphor with that people need to wake up. They're sleeping and we all need to wake up, which like, alludes to a mourning of some kind. She also talks about how he talks about how, I'll die before I see this and no one will ever know that I did this. And she's like, I'm dead and I'm only telling you this not because I want to be remembered. I don't care about that. I just want a future for Ferrex. And so those speeches feel very much in conversation to me, and I think it's why we see him impacted the way he is. Like he
Yeah.
remembers the purity of that kind of rebellious spirit and the reason for the rebellion in a way that some maybe has gotten lost in all of the things and the decisions that he's had to make.
Well, I looked at it a couple of ways because Luthen, if you look at this just from a high level perspective, Luthen doesn't do much in this episode. He just kind of stands and watches the events sort of unfold.
Mhm.
But there is that moment when they show this close up when he's watching this thing, and you see Stellan Skarsgård again. Just the facial
Amazing.
acting in these is awesome.
Amazing.
But I sat there thinking, is like, is this the first time he's ever actually seen the
Mm.
rebellion actually take form, because he's
Yeah.
been fighting this whole time trying to
Yeah.
set stuff up to wake people up, right?
Mhm.
And in that moment when he's seeing Marva deliver this really, fight the bastards, I mean, she literally says fight the
Mhm.
bastards, and he's smiling because he's like, everything I've done, it's worked. Like this,
Mhm.
Aldani, all of this stuff, it is
Right.
actually working now, and I'm seeing it for the very first time. I also think that part of the reason why he kind of leaves and doesn't, try to, he's there to kill Cassian. That's what he's trying. But this is Cassian's mother, and they
Yeah.
they state her name and everything,
Yeah.
and he knows that's Cassian's mom. So I think, jumping ahead a little bit, what happens at the very end, I don't think he was ever intending to actually kill Cassian from that point forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm. I
we'll
know.
get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there's another moment later when things have gotten violent, and you see kind of the conflict on his face as well. Because I think you're right. I think he's always operated from the shadows, and seeing it firsthand is different. It's
Yeah,
different to see the bodies of blown up bodies on the sides of the roads and things like that
yeah.
than it is to be even making tough calls, from your literal ivory tower in Coruscant. So I don't know. Interesting. Interesting. This is also the part though, as things are about like she calls for them to fight and they do. But this is the moment actually where I was like, "Oh, he's definitely a secret Jedi." Cuz
Really?
when you go back and watch it, pay very close attention. It's like a part where Dedra is walking by. I think like everybody has really coalesced and he has a like disturbance in the force moment.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I
When
will
it
go back and
happened,
watch
I looked at my partner, I was like, "He's a Jedi." He's like, "He's 100% a Jedi." Like, you can see him sense something.
it.
It's
Hmm.
subtle,
Okay.
but it's there. I'll find a timestamp for you. I'll
Okay.
find it.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I'll go back to look at that.
Listener
Yeah, listen, because that
in
was,
the
I
comments.
guess, one of the news things that came out, because people were talking about, did he have a lightsaber in that last episode? Was that what that thing was? And there's a
Mhm.
toy coming out that shows it's just a knife,
Mm.
like a
This
Black Series
season's
toy.
toy. This season's
Yeah,
toy.
yeah. So maybe
You know
there's
how
a
you sell a second toy? You do the one with the
with the light.
lightsaber.
Yeah, that's very true. If he does turn out to be a Jedi of some sort, do you feel like, because I was bouncing this around in my head, and I was wondering, is like, would Tony go, if he decides to go that direction, would this also be sort of a redemption arc for the Jedi themselves? Like
Hmm.
The Jedi did not, they failed the Republic. They didn't see anything that was happening, and it was a Jedi that basically brought down and initiated the Empire. The
Yeah.
Jedi caused the Empire. Would
Yeah.
this be kind of like Luthen's track here, is like, I'm trying to at least redeem what I originally believed in as a Jedi. We are here for the good of the galaxy, but this is what I have to go down in the muck to make it happen. I can't be that, hey, I'm a great space wizard, let me show up and just save the day for you. I've got to
Mhm.
actually do it this way. And would we look at the Jedi Order a little differently if it turns out Luthen is a Jedi?
I mean, I think that there's validity to that. My hope is that I'm wrong and that he is not a Jedi, because I think I would like this to purely stay out of that space. There are ways that he could be a Jedi that would, like, mitigate some of those feelings, like, if he starts, lightsabering all over the place and force throwing things and Jedi mind tracking people, I'm gonna be bummed, like, just I am,
Yeah.
because I think the grounded in reality-ness of Andor is one of the things that makes it so special. I understand that it exists in the Star Wars universe, so those things force sensitive people exist, but the idea that this could happen and that they could get this far and that the back of the rebellion is on everyday people is one of my favorite themes of the show.
Yeah, I like that as well, and I like, if they do decide to make him a Jedi, uh, I want it to be where he's not using space wizard powers to help them, right? This
Yeah.
is all just, hey, forth planning, setting
Yeah.
the seeds and stuff like that. Like, hey, I'm just a dude. Yes, I have force powers, but I'm not being space wizard guy, superhero sort of thing to
Yeah,
try to make this happen.
exactly.
I'm just a dude, and this is the only way I know how to actually do it. Because in theory, he can't show that he's a Jedi because that
Yeah.
would bring way too much attention to him and ruin his whole plan. Maybe he cut himself off from the Force. That's been shown that Jedi have done that multiple
Mm.
times. So maybe he was a Jedi, but he could no longer draw on the Force because he doesn't want to be caught by an Inquisitor, for example, that's running around the galaxy
Right.
doing that kind
Right.
of stuff. So I'd
Yeah.
be okay if he's like I cut myself off from the Force sort of thing. But I don't
Hmm.
know. I agree with
Maybe
you.
they'll bring in, like, the gray wizards from the extended universe
Yeah.
or something.
I agree with you. I hope he's just a guy. Like
Yes.
I hope he was just a regular dude hanging out in the Jedi Temple, be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm just doing some job shadowing here to see what you guys do." And then he saw Order 66 and he's like,
Right.
"Fuck, I got to make this happen." I hope that's
Yeah.
how he's
I mean, he could I'm assuming people beyond the actual literal Jedi are impacted by Order 66, Like,
Yes.
it's like the janitors on the Death Star, Like, other people, real people normal people are impacted by the sort of, superhero stuff as well. So,
It's going to turn out he was like an intern for Senator Sheev Palpatine and he
yep,
realizes, "Oops.
right? He
I
was
was
there
on the wrong
taking the minutes and he's like, "Order 66? What?"
I like it.
All right. So the streets erupt in violence. Wilman throws a bomb, and all hell truly breaks loose. Brasso cracks skulls with Marva's brick, which
That's what
is
you wanted. That's what you wanted.
this 1-2 punch of what I is like it's like we're the Truman in the Truman Show. We get bricks thrown and like fascist heads smashed by bricks, followed by the Empire opening fire on a group of rebels.
Yes.
I was
You
like, "Matthew's in heaven right now."
Oh, you wanna know why I was heaven? So initially, like, the stormtroopers are behind, like, they have, like, this, I don't know, like, the Imperial cops or something. They have, like,
Mhm.
riot shields and stuff like that, and but the stormtroopers, like, in the back, they're not doing anything, and I was sitting here thinking to myself, "Why aren't they sending the stormtroopers in to handle this stuff?" Well, eventually, when they start getting overrun, they're like, "Hey, open fire." What I loved about this, these stormtroopers are shooting everybody down. They ain't missing. They ain't missing. They're
No, they're
literally
not.
shooting everybody down. And I'm like, these are the stormtroopers that we were promised in the original A New Hope, right?
Yeah.
When they come in and they open that door and all those rebels are ready there and they just fucking mow down them rebels when Darth Vader
Yeah.
then comes in afterwards. Darth Vader doesn't lead the way. The stormtroopers go in there and take them all out. When Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise when they kill Beru and all them. That's what we all thought of stormtroopers. Like, oh my god,
Mhm.
these are bad dudes, and they are just gunning these
Yeah.
rebels down, gunning them down.
Yep. Yep.
Loved it.
I knew it. I knew it. See, we both got everything we wanted from this, which was great.
Oh, real quick, I will say the getting back to Cassian's dad. So,
Mm.
what I really loved about this, and I haven't seen, I've watched a bunch of videos on YouTube of people discussing this this episode. What I haven't noticed anybody say yet is sort of like the inciting moment of how this thing all goes off. And it tied me back to the scene with Cassian's dad, and that was B2. So, yeah, Marva gives this great speech, right? Like, fight the bastards, but nobody actually starts fighting until the Imperial goes over and just kicks B2 over,
Yep.
just knocks his ass over. And
Yep.
once that happens, they all fucking react,
Yeah,
you
no.
know?
Yeah.
And what I loved about that, I was like, this isn't the Imperial, like, just, shooting one down, like citizen of Ferrix down, and that gets them mad. They get pissed off that this droid that they
Mhm.
love gets
Mhm.
kicked. Again,
Yeah.
it gets back to the point that the droid they view the droid as, like, on as an equal to them, right? Even though he's a broken down droid, it shows how much that this society, like, he means to this society and this group of people. Even people who probably don't know who B2 is, they don't like the fact that this, quote unquote, individual in their eyes gets kicked. And it
Right.
reminded me of that earlier scene with Andor's father in that flashback, when he's sort of talking about how his junk is just sort of discarded, right? And
Yeah.
he's teaching Andor, at least how I took it, was that, hey, look, this stuff has value. This stuff
Yeah.
that people overlook and don't care about, it has value. And I just
Mhm.
took that to mean, like, B2 has value to Brasso,
Aw.
has value to these people. And I love the fact that it was them kicking the droid over that
Yeah.
caused them to actually start to revolt. And I haven't seen anybody actually talk about that on any YouTube videos, but I love that. That's what I got out of it, is like, oh, sweet, you know, go,
Yeah,
go
no, I
droids,
think
go droids.
I think you're right. I think that that's probably true as well. I think that's the thing is this thing is so dense. Like there's so much meaning to everything that they're saying, and it if not specifically about B2 emo, I think it speaks to the same ethos that his father passed on to him that is represented in the way that people are like protect B2
Yeah,
emo. You know, there is like we talked about this before that he is a broken droid. He is not a
yeah,
functional droid, but they still have empathy for him. They still imbue him with personhood and protect him in a way that shows it's appealing to us as the audience, but it also speaks to their character. And so you're right. I think that all of that stuff is very present in all of
it's
this.
because they view him as a person, right? They view
Mhm.
him as an individual, and what happens to us? We get old and we
Yeah.
break down, and
Yeah.
we hope that we have friends and family that will be there to help us, to ease us down the path there. And I just think it's so unique what they've done with this droid in this show, that might not necessarily be, I mean, shown and reflected in other Star Wars media as much. I mean, Dave Filoni has touched on this
Mhm.
with a lot of the droids that he's sort of introduced, Chopper, for example.
Love
Uh, but
Chop.
but to sort of see it in live action this way was
Mhm.
very impressive. Because even like C-3PO, everyone loves C-3PO.
Yeah.
No one cares about it. Let's just wipe his mind and do that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe R2D2 gets this treatment a little bit.
Yeah, there's like a thing in Clone Wars about how Anakin refuses to wipe R2D2 and that's like
Yeah,
how yeah.
but
Mhm.
R2 is a little different in my mind, because he's never, like, broken down, right? He's not like
Mm-mm.
R2 is sort of like, I don't think anyone else looks at R2 other than, like, Anakin and Luke and stuff as an actual person, like an
No.
individual, not like how this culture is sort of shown to look at droids. So just thought it was interesting. I really
Yeah.
love that.
I wonder if that started actually with Force Awakens because
Oh yeah, maybe BB-8.
BB-8, thank you. Like cuz I think BB-8 was the first super cute droid and B2 emo. God, I can't talk tonight. B2 E
Yeah, I just say
yeah,
B2.
B2. B2 was so adorable, and I wonder if that's kind of where it started. Anyway, I don't know.
Maybe.
Just
Yeah.
food for thought. Okay. Also, I just want to say for the record, Nurchi got exactly what he deserved, which is a face
Mhm.
full of glass. Fuck Nurchi.
New show title. Fuck Nurchi. That's what we're doing.
Okay, so you got your scene, but then, your girlfriend's in danger. Deidre gets like shot in the head. taken down,
God,
trampled.
you have no idea
Oh,
how
I do.
terrified
I
I
was
was. I was like, "No, no, no." I was like, "Dedra, get out of there. What are you doing running into the middle of this shit? Don't do it. Don't do it."
hubris. But don't worry, because someone sweeps in and saves the day.
Jeez, Cyril.
Jesus. Oh my god. This scene is like an incel fantasy come to life. He stalks her. He proves to her he is now entitled to her. Like, and she's swept off her feet by his gallantry. Barf. I
This
hate it.
was possibly the most disturbing scene I've seen in
Yes,
this
we've
entire
seen
show.
torture, and I'm like, no, 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 please, back to Bix, please, back to Bix.
This was so uncomfortable to see, and I think that was the point. I
Yeah.
think that
Oh,
was the point.
yes.
But yeah, and like she's like, I mean, she is terrified. We should point out that
Hmm.
she, through this whole thing, is absolutely terrified by what she's seeing. At one point, you see like 4 or 5 people grab her, and it's like
Yeah.
they're gonna just rip her to shreds. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
gonna kill her. And then, of course, Cyril, dressed in his wonderful cap,
Yes.
as someone who is a local, takes her in there. And man, I could not tell. Like the weird thing about this relationship and this dynamic is I can't tell if Dedra is actually like freaked out by this guy or if she's like, we need to fuck. Like we have to have sex here.
I
I don't
mean,
know. It's
two
so
things
weird.
can be true.
That's true. That's true. It's just so. Yeah. I. We will talk about where we think this might be going in season 2. But this was
Like,
weird.
literally at the top of my do not want to watch sex tapes is now
Oh my
Cyril and
god.
Dedra.
And I hate Cyril. That
I
should be
know.
me. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god. But
So
yeah, like even in this moment, it's like the snarliest, like, I guess I should say thank you.
yeah,
Woo!
yeah, yeah.
But the acting though. Let's talk about, I mean,
So
they
good.
so good on both of their parts. Like if they are meant to make you feel uncomfortable, if it is meant to be like these people are very broken, mission accomplished.
And
Mission
Cyril, the
accomplished.
thing about Cyril in this is the way he plays it. The power dynamic in this relationship has now
Yeah.
changed because when she's like, she's freaking out, and he's like, "Oh, you don't have to say thank you," and he just has
Yeah.
that little smile on his face. He's like, "Now, like you said, now you're mine. You owe me.
Yeah,
I
but
saved your life."
he still wants her to step on his balls, let's be
Oh yes.
honest.
I mean, we all do, Rachel. Come on now.
Right, right, right. Fair, fair, fair. Okay, so shock of all shocks, some people make it out of this alive. Brasso, B2, a woman named Jezzy, and Wilman all get on a ship. And before they leave, Andor shows up with Bix, puts her on the ship, and puts B2 Emo in charge, which is another really cute moment. Another exchange. I mean, like we've had very little time with these two, and yet I'm very invested in their
Yes.
relationship.
Yeah. It's the acting. The acting is
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, yeah.
You did forget to talk about
Did I
the
skip
storm
something?
the stormtrooper in the tower.
Oh my god, the yeeting! Yes, the yeeting heard round the world. One of the stormtroopers goes up into the tower to try to stop the guy with the anvil, and he just yeets him right out of the tower.
You just see like this Imperial watching the stormtrooper fly out. And they're
It
like,
was amazing. I mean, I thought for sure he was going to get up there and shoot him, and it was so much better.
yes, yes. One thing that I was wondering is like, where were the Death Troopers in all this?
Right?
Like, where were Dedra's Death Troopers? Because I was sitting there thinking, like, they're kind of like her bodyguards, but where
Yeah.
were they? I didn't. I have to watch it again because I don't
I
know if they were
mean,
getting if they were out there shooting people somewhere. But I want
my
to see the
my
Death Troopers.
assumption would be that they were engaged in combat and like taking out some unarmed people.
Would have loved the Death Troopers to break down that door and shoot Cyril in the face. That's what I would have liked to have seen.
Well, there's always season 2.
Yeah.
We get the death watch can continue. And then finally, Andor has some unfinished business with Luthen, who he confronts on his ship and gives him two options: either kill me or take me with you. What did you think?
I thought it was incredible, just like
Mhm.
every other episode. I'll tell you what I was kind of shocked by. Nobody of any note died.
Same.
I thought for sure somebody was going to die. Like
Yeah.
somebody was going to bite it, and the show, again surprised me. And it's one of the things I love
Yeah.
about this show because on one hand I was expecting someone to die. On the other hand, I didn't want anyone to die because I want to see them
Right.
all in season two. Because death is coming in season two. There's
Oh,
going to be a
yes.
lot of death in season two. A lot of these
Sweet
people going to drop
red
off.
wedding. Yeah.
So I was just, I mean, I love the Marva scene. It got me to, I started tearing up when she's like giving her speech and everything. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
just so beautifully written. Um,
Yeah.
and all these characters came together in such a organic way.
Mhm.
And I guess if I had one criticism of this episode, I would say that I thought it was a little too easy for Cassian
Yeah.
to get everything. I mean,
Yeah.
he saved Bix with no real resistance whatsoever. He was able to operate and maneuver around all this stuff without really any problems. So I would have liked to have seen him have to overcome, like at least to save Bix, have to go
Yeah.
through a little more, like take out some stormtroopers, like more stormtroopers, take out some death troopers or something like that.
Mhm.
But again, that's a small quibble. The rest of it was so good, and it leaves me with a million questions of what's going to happen in
Yeah.
season two. What do you think of
Yeah.
this episode?
I mean, I thought it was great. I think it's hard to follow something like episode 10, but this does a pretty good job because I think largely because there's some good character beats, we did get a really good explosive rebellion moment and then of course Marva's speech. I'm with you in that I think Andor got off too easy in this. I really wanted a moment where like not even that he got caught, but, like, I would have liked for him and Dedra to have seen each other, or for her at least to
Yeah,
he wouldn't have recognized her, but she would have seen him, or for him and Cyril to have seen each other,
yeah.
something. Just because 'cause there's been so much buildup for them not even to cross paths feels like I unfinished business in a way that I would have just liked to have had that beat where
Because
he sees him.
right now, because okay, you've seen this twice. I've only seen it once, but
Yeah,
so at the end of last episode, it was left hanging. Did Bix actually tell them about Anto Krieger or not?
right,
So in this one, they have killed Krieger,
right.
but do we know for a fact if she has
Well,
exposed Cassian? Like, will that be something in season two where it turns out she actually did tell them who Cassian was, so that
or
they know?
Luthen, you mean?
Or sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
Luthen, sorry.
So, I mean, I think we know for a fact that regardless of what she said, they know that Anto Krieger was not Axis because Partagaz tells her like if you want
That's
to
right, yeah.
yeah, like if you want to have a conversation with the Empire, go find Axis.
Yep.
So, whether she lied and they didn't believe her or she told is up to for debate, but I'm leaning towards the latter.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Although she was looking rough, so maybe they continue torturing her. I'm not saying that she can't. I don't know. I don't know, but I obviously she did not convince him that Anto was Axis.
Yeah. And I think I will mention something because I was reading an interview with Tony Gilroy on Deadline, and I just kind of want to quote this because I'm so sad we don't get 5 seasons of this. I'm so,
Oh,
so sad.
no.
So they asked the question to Tony Gilroy, mapping out next season how many episodes per each year of Cassian's life, because this whole season took place 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, and originally it was supposed to be each year was going to lead up to Rogue One.
Mhm.
So he says we're going to cover in the next 12 episodes the next 4 years. So
No.
each block of 3 episodes is going to be basically a year long.
No.
uh, so he's like, when we come back for our second half, it'll be a year later. So the
No.
beginning of season two is going to be 1 year after the events of this.
Mm-mm.
All kinds of things will have happened, and we'll pick up the
No.
show. Sometimes we'll do a week, we do 3 days, we'll do 4 days, whatever. And he says the last one will be 3 to 4 days, beginning with Rogue One, and then our final scene has always been known, which will
No.
be walking him into the first scene of Rogue One. So we'll be
No.
dealing with time in a different way, but it'll be blocks of three.
I don't like it. I don't like it. The one of the best things about this season is the ability it had to breathe.
Yes, I
I don't
agree.
I
I'm
don't get
worried.
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned. Also, like, I mean, are one of those 3 years gonna be about him finding his sister? I don't wanna use a whole year of his life finding his sister.
That's true. Like, we don't have any resolution on the sister thing yet.
Like,
Absolutely 0.
I have a lot of faith in Tony Gilroy. I feel like he's earned my trust,
Yes.
but I don't like it. I
Well,
have concerns.
maybe he'll write all these, each episode is, like, 2 hours long or something, so it gets
Yes, but we heard that in the final season of Game of Thrones, and I remember how that turned out.
Yeah,
Rushing expediency when you have a show that lives in the quiet places between moments is not a good combination. Bob
yeah,
Iger, you're back. This feels like a Bob Chapek decision. Let's
yeah.
roll it back 5 seasons or GTFO.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so weird. It's like, wow, you're gonna go through 3 episodes and
Mm,
so much stuff's gonna be missed. We're
mm-mm,
just time jumping so much.
mm-mm.
Again, we gotta wait to see, but I don't wanna have to tell Steve he was right. But
No,
sorry.
Rogue One is still the end.
Yeah,
Rogue One is still the end, so we know it ends well.
yeah. I just hope
Cling.
I hope these episodes turn out to be longer. And I will say that all the episodes, I think except for one, were over 40 minutes, and most were
Mhm.
45 to 55 minutes long. So they told Tony Gilroy told a lot of story. And like I'm watching the Peripheral right now, and those peripheral things that sometimes are over an hour long, and
Mm.
there's just nothing in that show that warrants that much time. But I'm like, if they can give a show
Mm.
like the Peripheral an hour and 15-minute runtime for something, why can't they give this show like an hour and 15-minute runtime, but I don't know. It's concerning. It's
Yeah.
concerning.
I mean, this weekend they're putting those episodes up on like every streaming service that Disney has a finger in that pie.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the week it's a holiday weekend where people who have been super busy maybe give it a shot. Maybe it finally finds the audience it deserves. And then they're like, listen, Tony, Tony.
Well, he's already making season 2 though. That's the problem. They're already filming it.
Is it so
So,
it's already fully written and they're filming.
yeah, they've already started filming. So,
No.
he's not going to be able to go back.
No, I don't think so. You're right.
What I would love for them to do, I'd be like, you know what? Okay, fine. We only gave you 2 seasons on this. How about we give you 5 seasons and you tell us what happened between A New Hope and Empire, and then why don't we give another 5 seasons between Empire and Jedi? Tell us how those Bothans died to get the plans for the Death Star. tell us
Oh my
uh,
god.
tell us what Mon Mothma was doing during that whole time.
Speaking of which, post-credit scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. Post credit scene. What was the post credit scene?
So zoom in on some robos doing robo things, zoom out, and we discover, yes, those parts that we were seeing built on Narkina 5 are indeed a part of the Death Star.
Building the actual weapon part of the Death Star that will
Oh!
end up killing them all on Scarif.
Oh,
He's
grim.
building the parts that will ultimately seal his fate, so to
Oh,
speak. It's
such
so cool.
it's such a rad reveal too, and it's interesting. Like, it's not a perfect comparison, but the way the shot is set up, if you look at the beginning of Andor and the end, like they line up, and like I was trying to get a screenshot because I wanted to see just how close it was, and I never noticed that before the Andor symbol becomes the rebel symbol, it's a planet.
Yeah.
So
Did you notice throughout each episode the music is different
I
in the opening of
did,
Andor? And
yes.
I was reading a thing about that said that from episode 1, it's very sort of Spartan. There's only a couple instruments, but each episode they add more and more layers of instruments to show sort of like the building of the rebellion. And that's how they did the opening music on all
I
these
love
episodes.
that! That's
So,
okay, now I have to go back and listen to them all. Well, I mean,
yeah,
I guess I will when I do my watch. I won't be so I'm so impatient, I always skip.
yeah, yeah. It's just I mean, there's so much care and attention in this show. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. So let's do. Obviously, we're gonna time jump a year. Tony Gilroy's already said a
Mhm.
time jump a year for season 2. Where do you feel our main characters are gonna be a year from now?
Jesus, I don't. Let's see. God, I haven't even thought about it in this
I
moment.
feel I don't know. I'm
I
worried for
don't.
Dedra. I'm worried. The
Yeah.
Empire does not look kindly on failure, and Ferrex was failure. It was
Mm.
a major failure. But then, like, what's Cyril doing? Is he her new like? I mean,
Oh,
does
for
she get
sure.
demoted,
For
or
sure.
is he her new space boy hanging out with the
One
clipboard?
million percent. One what'll be interesting to see is if over the course of their relationship he like we get a like a Sith acolyte dynamic where he's just like shiv shiv shiv. Um but I don't I the thing is I have it's too far of a time jump. I don't know. I don't know where everybody was going to be. I think we're going to see that Mon Mothma's daughter is married.
Oh, so
Especially if
you
we're
think
skipping
she will be married?
well, if we're skipping a year, they're not going to how are they going to show us her double cross? They're getting married.
Mm,
They're getting married.
okay. I see. I
So,
still think they're not getting married.
okay.
I think they're going to do something to get their way out of that. I just refuse to believe that Mon Mothma is going to do that to her daughter,
Yeah.
even though her daughter wants it. Like clearly, her daughter's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I love the old ways, and yeah, hook me up with this 14-year-old space gangster. I'm all about
Mm.
it." I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I hope for her that sake that's true, but I suspect they will she will be all married off to the the yeah, space thug's son. Um Vel, I wonder if she's going to be like even more disenchanted with the rebellion and like maybe falling back into her socialite ways. Um mm, where I guess it's really going to largely have to do with the outcome, like the what does the political climate look like post Ferrex rebellion? I
Yeah.
think I think we're going
Now,
to see a real sort of like what is that called? Where the government comes in and like locks everything
or
down.
like a
Martial
martial
law.
law sort
I
of thing.
suspect a martial law of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah, the Emperor's not going to be happy. Emperor Palpatine, my boy, he's never happy. But
Well,
what I think is going to be really interesting about this is, again, what concerns me is the compressed nature of all this. But
yes.
there are so many characters leading up to this point in time that are big, giant, iconic Star Wars characters that are deep in the rebellion. You've got obviously Ahsoka as
Yep.
Fulcrum is doing
Yep.
stuff during this whole
Yep.
time. Everybody on the Ghost crew, Hera, Sabine, like all of those
Yeah.
individuals. Princess Leia, Bail
Yeah.
Organa. Do we see Tarkin? At this time, Thrawn is doing a lot of
Oh
shit
my
at this
god.
time. What about Callus? Are we going to see Callus as at some point during this? And it's like, does it become a cameo show?
No.
But that's the thing. It's like if you could have done the 5 seasons, you could have built all these characters out more. But it's going to feel like, oh, there you go, there's Thrawn in an episode because he has to be there, right? Because he's doing stuff at this time. Or are they going to try to find a way to completely ignore all these
I mean, I
characters?
think it's possible to ignore all of the characters because you got to think these are people at the like ground level to some degree. The universe is big, the rebellion is big. We managed to be on Coruscant and never see the Emperor all season long. So
Yeah,
there's a
but Mon
chance.
Mothma interacts with all these people.
I think we're going to see Bail Organa. And you know what? I'm fine with it. Like that makes sense to me. But I don't know that I want to see all, like I'm cool with like maybe like second tier characters showing up, but I don't want to see Jedi. I don't like I love Ahsoka. She's my favorite character. I don't want her in the show.
Yeah,
She
like
doesn't
the
fit.
ghost was fighting at Scarif on
Yeah.
Rogue One. The ghost ship is there.
Like I would love to see the ghost ship. Like that would be a rad kind of Easter egg moment if we saw like some sort of airfield and the ghost was in there. That would be dope. I'd be super into that. But I don't know that I need to see all of those characters. I'm less like if I saw like Chopper or whatever, that'd be fine. But I don't want to see Ahsoka. I don't want to see. I don't. I love Leia. I don't necessarily want to see Leia because I
I think.
feel like this. I feel they're almost like different genres. The vibe is so different. I think Ahsoka would look absurd in this setting.
Yeah. I think here's my prediction of all of these people, I think we will see Tarkin.
Okay,
I think we're going to see Tarkin. And
that's fine.
I think the reason why we're going to see Tarkin is because they were talking about the Gormans. That's Mon
Mhm.
Mothma's whole thing
Yep.
was the Gormans throughout
Mhm.
this whole season when she's in the Senate and they're clicking off their things. The Gorman massacre occurs like 2 years before Rogue One, and that is literally Tarkin takes his ship and lands it on thousands of protesters and kills them all, and that is what causes at least unless they change canon, that is what causes Mon Mothma to resign from the Senate and to
Mm.
become a main leader of the rebellion.
Maybe
Are
that'll
they
be
going to
the
show?
first episode.
Are they going to show Tarkin smash down on thousands of people with a star destroyer or some shit like that? Because
My guess
Tarkin was
is
that'd be
no.
amazing.
The reason why is I was reading, I have not been actually reading a lot of supplementary stuff, but I did see something about the reason that we never saw any of the Anto Krieger stuff is that Tony Gilroy is committed to only showing things that our point of view characters see.
Oh, okay.
So unless Tarkin becomes a point of view character or one of our characters is on that Star Destroyer, we're not going to see the buff and smoosh.
Okay, so we might just hear about it.
Yes. Yep. But I mean, that also makes sense of why all the Krieger stuff was so off camera. We were like, this is weird. Like,
Yeah,
this feels important. But if it's part of like the plan to be like, this is how we're limiting this, if it makes a little bit more sense. It also explains like why we had a weird animated character for Krieger.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, look at Marva. She wasn't animated. They actually had an actress, the actress there,
Oh.
and they just turned her into a hologram. Why couldn't they have just hired some big bald dude
Yeah,
to
you're
to
gonna
be
tell me
Krieger?
there wasn't an extra or like somebody
Yeah,
in the graphics department was like, I could put on a jacket,
like run a contest and just have a fan show
right?
up and be an Andor. I mean, just you are Krieger or something like that. But
Yeah,
yeah, it'll be
strange.
interesting to see what happens in the next
I
season.
want to be careful not to get my hopes up because I like, and I know this is something you're susceptible to as well, is you start writing what you think it's going to be and
I
then
know.
get disappointed when it goes a different direction.
Yes.
And the part of I think a big part of the Andor thing is like we hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about it. So everything was like, "Whoa, I never thought about that."
Yeah,
So,
and that's the problem because now we got like a year and a
mm,
half to just
yep,
wonder what's going to happen. More stuff, plot's
yep.
going to leak out
Oh
and
yeah.
all this stuff. And okay,
I'm going to try to avoid it because I want to keep it fresh and funky when I'm already bummed about the weird time jump stuff. So like I'm trying to be like, okay, okay, okay. Let's just see what happens. Let's
yeah.
reserve judgment.
So, Gavin, just a couple questions here to wrap this all up. Favorite character in the show? Who was your favorite character? I know all of them are great, but if you could pick one character and like that's the character I'm running with after watching this, who's your character?
Oh, I think ooh, it's kind of a I'm
I have
vacillating
two.
between
I have
yeah, okay,
two.
I have
So
2 as well then. Okay, cool. Then my 2 are Vel and Luthen. Those are the 2
okay.
that I but that being said, I am deeply compelled by a lot of other characters as well.
Yeah, yeah. One of mine, obviously, Dedra. Dedra Mira.
Of
Love Dedra.
course.
And the other one might surprise you, Mon Mothma. I
Oh, I
thought
mean,
I thought
yes!
both of those characters, I just loved everything. Every time they were on camera, I just loved all of the stuff that was going on. So those are
Yeah.
the two characters that I love the most. And strangely enough, and I don't know if this would be I'm sure there's going to be people that sort of critique the show, haters who will look at this. I think if I think Cassian might be, even though I loved how Diego Luna in this, he might be like my least favorite character on the show. Just because again, I'm not trying to say I dislike the character. I really loved his character, but I
Mhm.
found that he was like almost the least interesting. Like I found all the other supporting characters more interesting to me than Cassian ultimately. Did you
Yeah.
feel that way?
No, no, I agree. I think he is our avatar, like our audience avatar to some degree, but I do find Diego Luna's performance so compelling that even though he is
Yeah.
not a character that I would normally be really drawn to, in those emotional beats, like in this episode when he's listening to Brasso relay that message from Marva, I mean, like I can't help but love him. But is
Yeah.
he my favorite? On a scale of characters I love, he's not my favorite. On a scale of it like, objectively, is he a character that I care about? Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that it's a testament that the,
Yeah.
quote unquote worst character on the show, and I mean that in the nicest way possible,
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
worst. The quote unquote worst character, least interesting on the show, is still great
I
because
mean,
everything around it's amazing.
he's the person who got to do the least amount of scenery chewing, you know? Like, all the great speeches come from everyone around him
Yeah,
because he's the one that's sort of being influenced by it. So, like, Nimic gets the best speech, or Kino, or
yeah,
Luthen, or Marvin, like, they all get to say the stuff, and he just kind of, as your audience avatar, just gets to absorb it. And he,
yeah.
he
I
gets his
think that'll
hero turns as
I
well,
think
but
that'll change in season 2 because I
yeah.
think, Cassian's about to go through some shit in season 2. I think
Yeah.
a lot of who he's come to love and respect, they're gonna die in season 2, and I
Oh,
think he's
I mean,
gonna
because
go
he's
through a lot of hardship.
pretty bitter by the time we get to Rogue One, yes? That's my recollection.
Yeah.
He was not a big, like,
It opens with him just gunning down a fellow
well,
rebel to save to protect, his information. He's like, "Oh, yeah," boom, just shot him dead. Very Luthen-like.
yeah. I mean, I guess maybe that'll be interesting to see is what a year of working with Luthen does to
Luthen's gonna
him.
warp his mind.
Woo! Woo! Can't
Okay,
wait.
so what was your favorite moment? If you could pick, one moment from the show that you're like, all right,
Well, I'll tell you the
that's
moment that I've gone back and watched multiple times and been moved by multiple times since it aired is Luthen's speech on
that
the
was mine. That was mine.
Yep. Yeah, I've
Luthen's
watched it like
speech.
4 like, no, 6 or 7 times. I've watched it, then started it over and watched it again. I've watched videos of it, like, over footage where he's just doing the yeah. It's really spectacular writing.
I was watching a YouTuber who was basically stating that that's now a monologue that actors are using, like in their
Smart.
classes and to
Smart.
submit to directors and stuff. That Stellan Skarsgård's so great
Mhm.
in that actors like, yep, that's the new monologue that I want to be able to
I
show
mean,
people of my talents and my skill set.
the build, you know what I mean? The
Hmm.
build in it. Like, it starts at one level and it just, like, crescendos in a way, and then just, like, kinda it's just such a great, like, emotional sort of journey that you go on with that thing.
How does he die?
Everything.
He's
Everything.
he's gonna die somehow, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited to see how it happens because it's gonna go
Mhm.
out in a blaze of glory, I'm sure.
I think
um,
so. He's gonna
and
finally pull out that lightsaber.
yeah, maybe the Emperor will show up and pull out his dual lightsabers. We'll have a huge epic lightsaber fight.
Ah!
Jedi Master Luthen.
No!
Okay, and the last question I had was, where would you rank this show in terms of your favorite television series? Not just Star Wars, but anything that you've seen. Because I was thinking about this after it wrapped up today. And for me personally, I'm like, I gotta think about it more, about like, this might crack my top 5. This
Yeah.
might be one of the greatest seasons of
No.
television I've ever
Yes.
seen.
No, 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 yes, I agree. I'm, like, trying to think, like, if we take there are seasons of Game of Thrones that are in competition with it. Like, there are other shows that are ones that I will return to more often, but in terms of, like, the quality of this thing, it is a top fiver for me, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
Might be a top 3er.
could be. Like, I gotta. Maybe that'll be something we do on a future show. Is like, think about
Like,
it for a while. Like,
what
where would
shows
we
are
put
better than Andor?
Yeah, where would we put this? Where would we put this? So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this will be our last episode for the year.
Yeah.
We'll take off some time over the holidays. There's no new
Mhm.
Star Wars stuff coming out, unless some weird, crazy news drops that the world needs our
Yeah.
hot take on, or something like that. So while we are off until January, and that's when Bad Batch comes out, and I don't know how we'll do that. Maybe we'll just do like every 3 episodes or something,
Sure.
do a show on those, or I don't even know how they're dropping it. I don't know if it's all one time or if it's week to week or what. But we'll be back with some stuff on the Bad Batch. But during this time of Thanksgiving and Christmas, you're going to be there with your family. Spread the word of Nemec. spread it to your family, your
Yes.
friends and family. Have
Yes.
them say, "Look, you're off work for the next 3 or 4 days. Give Andor a shot. I guarantee you, they're
Yes.
gonna get hooked." And we want to show Disney Plus and the powers. We need to show Bob Iger. Look, we love this. Give us more of
Yes.
this. He's putting the power back in the creatives' hands. Like we want more of this stuff. So go back,
Mm.
and then once you've watched these episodes, go back, listen to Nobody's Listening, and check out our episode by episode breakdown. And you can join us in 2023, which is going to be filled to the brim with a million Star Wars shows that I'm
Yup.
very excited to see.
Mhm.
And I think Mando's in February. I think is when it's
Is
dropping.
it really in February?
It's either
So
February or
soon.
March, and then I think what the plan is Bad Batch is in January.
Great.
Mando's either in late February or March, and then Ahsoka's in May,
Oh my
and
god.
then this Skeleton Crew thing is supposed to be late summer, and then they're
Okay.
gonna do Acolyte in the fall. So it's gonna be just a whole year of Star Wars stuff.
So they're really addressing this whole Star Wars fatigue thing.
Hey, if it's anything like Andor,
Yo, no, I don't have it. My body is ready.
I mean, we're starting off. The first three things are Dave Filoni stuff, you know. So
That helps. That helps. That
yeah,
helps.
yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, Rachel. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
To our listeners out there, our listener, happy Thanksgiving. Have a good New Year, and we'll be back in 2023 with more Nobody's Listening, the Star Wars show on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel.
Bye, everybody.